Welcome everybody, my name is Caetano from HPE. We're going to spend a short 12 to 15 minutes here talking about the shared responsibility model of our HPE GreenLake for VCF offering, the service offering that we have. Where this fits in our portfolio is we have what we call the custom or the flex model, where you could build everything up yourselves and you could add managed services on top of it, to all the way to our extreme, which is our HPE GreenLake for Private Cloud Enterprise, which everything is done through management of HPE itself with a Morpheus front end, so you have some VM vending and everything else. This solution fits in the middle, and the reason it fits in the middle is because customers have come to us and said, I really want HPE to do all of this work for us, but I want to be able to be a part of it, and I want to be able to manage the environment using the native VMware tools themselves. So instead of putting a Morpheus front end on it or something else, I have all these tools to deploy my applications. I want to leverage those and keep in the model of making that work. So what HPE did with all of that is we created this shared responsibility model. And basically what ends up happening in the shared responsibility model is we function as an infrastructure as a service provider for you, the management overall for everything else. We take away a pain point of how do you do lifecycle management. Because honestly, if you really want to do lifecycle management, do you want to have to know about it, buy all the vendors of the hardware, or would you rather have the hardware vendor take care of it themselves? They're the ones that know best how to do firmware updates, how to make sure everything gets updated in the proper order, and be able to do that. So if you look on the left side of the slide here, it says we have the 3 layers with the HPE cloud infrastructure at the bottom, so all of the components of what we have as our instances or our cloud compute instances, storage and our networking that builds on top of that inside of the parameter. We have a control plane. It's a 1U box that communicates back to the GreenLake control center, right? And that's how our management services come in and be able to look at the environment, manage the environment. That's also the pipe that goes back out so that all the alerts that happen in the environment itself get pushed back through that pipe up into OpsRamp and ServiceNow so that we can be able to look at that information and be able to do that for you. Also, we'll bring back some information on usage and capacity planning through that control plane. That's what we use to reference the RDA tool that we have that's been around for a long time. That's the connectivity between the 2 sites in there. It doesn't open a whole big part in your environment itself. Then, of course, on top of that layer, we have the traditional VCF layer of software. Right? So you have your vSAN, you have your lifecycle management of vSphere, NSX, everything that belongs on top of that. Then once you get above that layer itself, then with your applications and your data, that all belongs to you. You know best how to deploy that. You know best how you want to be able to manage that data. HPE does not take on that data itself. It's all within you. So if you look down the middle column itself about deployment and provisioning, right, we have, starting at the bottom, we do a factory integration of the product. When we roll these things out, we roll it out in day 0 and day 1 fashion such that you can deploy this in your data center or you can deploy it in a colo. You have the choice of where you want to be able to have that information. We do the traditional thing, which is probably the most hardest thing for any account that we work with, is we collect all the information before we build. It's like that part of the instruction manual that says, gather all these tools before you start and it'll be smooth, right? So we're going to ask you all the questions. We're going to ask you what you want for IP ranges, what you want for passwords, what you're going to want for the information. How do you want things laid out before we'll start the factory build? Because if we start a factory build and all of a sudden we're waiting for that information, it's going to be a long time before the delivery. So we have a customer intent document that actually builds that up so that as we roll it in at day 1, a lot of the information that we're doing there is the final mile of connectivity to your data center network, if you want to do that for the uplinks, to be able to bring that in, and then move it from beyond that point and be able to connect into whatever licenses you bring. You can buy the license from HPE, you can bring your own license along with you, as you want to be able to do it for the VMware software. We provision during that build process the management domain itself, and we'll get ready to deploy all the other hosts that you make available to you for the workload domain. Right, so we'll make sure vSphere is loaded on them, they're properly revved up, they have all of the entire firmware that you actually need on the environment. And then from that layer up, think about it as the shared model of, we've given you this infrastructure, we've given you the pool of IP addresses you told us, you've given us all of the VLANs that you want us to work with. We provision the top of rack switches to make sure all of those work, and we hand that over to you for you to be able to commission, decommission those hosts, just like you would if you were in SDDC Manager yourself. You do have access to the SDDC Manager, you have access to vCenter and the NSX Manager. So as sharing in that relationship of building the workload, building the environment that works for your data, for all the applications you want to do, sitting in the middle. From there, you can migrate your VMs yourself. You can actually be able to do deployment and provisioning of additional VMs, and also reconfiguring those VMs or those clusters in the workload domain to be able to make it the best that works for your application. So that's in the deploy and the provision piece. And then the management piece on the right-hand side of this, again, I said HPE is responsible for all of the lifecycle management itself. We also will put out some reporting, and I'll show you just a screenshot of what one of those looks like in a second, of capacity management and consumption analytics, right? Because this is a service that we have available through the metering software that we have available to us. We can tell you what your load is on the memory, what your load is on the core counts that are inside the box itself, what you're using for the storage, so that you can look at it and also has some forecasting of where we think you're going to go. That's great for when you're going to be able to want to provision the software and say, hey, it looks like I'm going to hit a peak. I want to get ahead of the supply chain requirement and bring in some more nodes so I can make sure that's there. Everything gets set up with the nodes. HP is responsible for making sure those nodes are ready, and then you can roll them into the environment and the clusters as you need them. From going up inside that entire thing, right? We talk about all the domains management workload itself, the lifecycle management, and then the GreenLake management tools. And then again, monitoring for your VMs and everything else becomes that middle layer for everybody else to be able to take care of. Now this environment was really something that we said, there's a lot of people that are invested in their own provisioning tools. They have others that want to be a part of it. Our default licensing that we do put in this solution is VCF Enterprise itself, so you get the suite of all the products, including vRealize Suite. And not everybody wants to use vRealize Suite right off the top, or the ARIA Suite right off the top. So by default out of the factory, we typically don't install that immediately until we understand what the customer wants to do with that. Because there's a whole lot of extra stuff that people have to decide what they want to do with their networking, if they're doing availability zones, and sometimes they're not ready to do that. But it's licensed in the environment. If you buy the license from HPE, you have a choice of all the OEM licenses that we do resell from VMware itself. If you bring your own license into this environment with the shared responsibility, we have two services that we put in there so that HPE will handle level 1 and level 2 calls for you, so that we can make sure it gets a resolution really quick and a remediation really quick, and then we'll hand off at level 3 to VMware based on the licensing, wherever that was purchased from that entire thing. So you see the two pieces, you see where they all brought together with the environment itself. And then if I flip to the next slide, this is a screenshot of what the HPE GreenLake platform looks like when you come into the environment itself. This is our integration environment that we were using for the demo. If you come over to the HPE booth, we have it up live so we can poke around a little bit. But you notice it has tracked cost up on the top. It has the capacity planning summary that's there, as well as your monthly charges, because you can pay as you go. But there's also a tile in the bottom there on the third slide that says it's the HPE GreenLake for VMware Cloud Foundation. And that's the tile that will take you, based on the role that you logged into on the HPE GreenLake platform, over to a tile that says, are you allowed to log into SDDC Manager? Are you allowed to log into the NSX Manager for workload 1 or workload 2 or the vCenter, given those permissions, right? And those things are defined by the way we do this through the roles that we define inside the environment, inside the GreenLake platform. So we set up VCF specific roles. So you can come in here, log in, you can give people permission, right? We give us super users the permission to come in, and you define your users that want to be able to do this information. Your users that want to be able to come in here, and you classify them here. When you get through to the next tile, which you'll see on the next slide, those tiles are defined by this role, all right, and they may be able to bring them in. Here are the tile roles. So it's a click through from here. It launches the browser, again, to push you right into the environment itself. This is not the only way into your environment. You still have access to your environment through your data center network. So all the traditional methods, because you probably have a lot of services set up in the network that you want to be able to utilize, you can still get to the network. This is an alternate way to get to the network from the cloud, from the GreenLake platform. You don't have to use this method because a lot of people write their own provisioning tools and be able to do it. Yes?
If I have access to go to my virtual center directly,
Yeah.
then this one also from the cloud. So am I opening appliance or something, or how am I?
You're not opening an appliance. This is a browser click through the environment.
My physical equipment on my data center, which is GreenLake, right? Are they installing something in there?
So this access will come through that 1U box that we put in there. It's called the control plane. So the remote device RDA tool will bring the connectivity into the environment itself and then spawn that off in it. When you do get to the SDDC manager and the NSX manager itself, you do re-log in because people have different credentials of different IMs available on the next level, and you can protect that from happening, right? You may say to somebody, you don't have permission to come in from the cloud. You won't be able to come in from the cloud side of the house, but you will be able to come in from the local network side, depending on how you do that. So you log in both ways right now. We have a variety. We have about 7 different compute instances that are available with this platform today. Storage-centric, vSAN-based, all the way through the first part of this roadmap. There is one compute instance that does have 2 GPUs and the A40 GPUs that are available to be used as well, if that's one of the workloads that you consider and need to bring into the environment. These are, right now are Gen 10 Plus, and it's based on VCF 451 because we started this project a year ago, and VCF 5 didn't come out until June of this year, and now we're moving forward to go to VCF 5, 5.1, and then also moving into our Gen 11 platforms. But that, yeah, we got to do it. Yep. And I do have to wrap it up, and I thank you guys very much. It was a quick session, but come by the booth and we'll talk a little bit more. Thank you all.